You've sat in the wrong seat, dear. That's a first-class seat. And you're not the type we call first class. Captain Andrew chuckled smugly. He was standing just inside the entrance of the Boeing 777 from Pampo Air, and his words were so sharp that the entire front cabin fell silent. His voice wasn't loud, but it didn't need to be because every syllable was dripping with contempt. The silence that followed was colder than the cabin air and stretched on as if the plane itself was holding its breath. Callista, the head flight attendant, chimed in over the internal intercom with a mocking tone. Passenger in seat 2A, please prepare to move to economy until your ticket is verified. The announcement echoed through the first-class cabin like a public trial before any crime was proven. Nia Thompson, standing just outside the boarding door with her laptop bag and a water bottle, froze for half a breath. Her face stayed calm, but inside, something was exploding. She was a 42-year-old black woman, wearing a cream blouse, navy pants, and flat leather shoes. She didn't look wealthy. She looked real. She didn't yell. She didn't beg. She just raised one eyebrow, as if to say, "Is that right?" But Captain Andrew took that silence as a challenge. He stepped closer. "Do you think a smile gets you a seat up here?" These seats are for priority passengers, not for charity cases. Behind him, a tall white man in a custom suit. Victor Lang shifted restlessly. He didn't need to say a word. His eyes said it all. Discomfort, demand, expectation. He was waiting for his seat and clearing the way. Before we go further, tell me where you're watching this video from. Type your city or country name below. Because what's about to happen in the next 9 minutes inside this cabin, this isn't just about an airline. It's a lesson about power, bias, and what happens when a woman is underestimated by the wrong people on a bad day. If this story touches you, give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe for more real stories. Nia's seat 2A was clearly printed on her ticket, but Claire leaned toward her with exaggerated concern. "Ma'am, would you mind stepping to the galley?" "We need to confirm your booking." Nia just handed her the boarding pass. Claire glanced at it before saying, "It looks like it's been changed." Then she turned to another crew member and muttered, "Check economy. Maybe she just wandered in here." Emma Riley, a white passenger sitting across the aisle, raised her phone and started recording. She whispered to the man next to her, "Liam Foster." "This doesn't seem right." Nia said nothing, just opened her wallet, pulled out her Pampo Air Platinum card, and held it tightly. Claire smiled. "That looks nice. You can't just fake an ID." "You can't just fake an ID. If you don't cooperate, we'll have to delay the flight." Captain Andrew added, "This jet isn't here to confuse everyone in the cabin, especially with disruptions like this." Just then, Victor, still standing there silently, decided to drop his mask. "She doesn't look like first-class material," he said clearly. Like announcing the weather, just loud enough, just enough cruelty, just enough racism veiled in restraint. Some passengers looked up. No one laughed, but no one spoke up. Nia blinked slowly. That was the moment. The moment everything changed because 20 years ago, when Nia Thompson was 22, she boarded a flight in jeans and a hoodie. She had just graduated from Howard University and saved up for months to buy that ticket. But the crew didn't believe she belonged in business class. They kept asking if she was lost and if she needed help finding her seat. That humiliation lit a fire. That fire built a company, and that company became Pampo Air. Now, she was standing on her own jet, being humiliated by the very men working for her. Emma's voice broke the awkward silence. This is going viral on Reddit. Discrimination on a Pampo Air flight. Liam leaned toward her. Tag me in it. That's disgusting. Claire turned her head toward them, lips pursed. You two need to put your phones away, or you'll have to step aside. Emma didn't back down. Then remove me, but I won't stop. Maya Brooks, the youngest flight attendant on the crew, stepped forward. Her voice shook a bit, but her words didn't. Her ticket is valid. I checked it myself when she boarded. Hall turned back to her with a look that could kill. You checked wrong. I didn't. Nia took a deep breath and finally spoke. Andrew, you're making a mistake. Claire crossed her arms. And just what makes you think you have the right to be here? Nia calmly held up the platinum card again, then flipped it over. The back had the embossed text, Nia Thompson, CEO of Pampo Air Global Holdings. Claire snatched it, tossed it onto a nearby seat like trash. Anyone could fake that. Liam stepped forward and picked up the card. He read it out loud, slowly. Passengers turned. Whispers spread. A woman gasped. A man near seat 1D muttered, Wait, did she say CEO? Emma pointed her phone at Claire. You've messed this up. Nia stood still, her voice gentle but unmistakable. You're ruining Pampo Air, Claire barked. You're ruining Pampo Air, Claire barked. Nia didn't move. She pulled out her phone and softly said, Lia, activate the internal system protocol. Begin. Ma'am, please take your seat, or I'll call security. Nia didn't move. She pulled out her phone. Lia, she said softly, activate the internal system protocol. Begin documenting. We're escalating. On the other end of the call, Lia Carter, her executive assistant, knew. It's done, she replied. Do you want me to prepare the files? No, Nia answered, still staring at Claire. I'll handle this myself. Captain Andrew, still holding the mic in one hand, scoffed. Ma'am, let me be clear. We don't do charity flights here. This is a commercial airline. You can't expect to buy respect with attitude. No, but I expect you'll lose your job with that mouth. Victor snorted. That's why people always think everything's about race. Maya turned to him sharply. And here you are, proving her point. Emma looked into her phone camera and whispered, If you've ever faced treatment like this, you know. And if you haven't, watch what happens next. Claire went back to the internal intercom. Ladies and gentlemen, please disregard this delay. We're resolving a ticket issue with a passenger who may not belong here. Maya yanked the mic away before she could finish. Don't lie anymore. The cabin was no longer quiet. The tension had become the oxygen, and the oxygen was catching fire. Nia, unflinching, straightened her shoulders. She didn't yell. She didn't cry. She was calculating. You have 8 minutes to fix this, she said coolly. Or I'll fix it myself. Passengers started whispering louder. Some stood up. Others murmured into their phones. Maya, now clearly on Nia's side, took a firm step toward her. Victor scoffed again, shaking his head as if it was all beneath him. But nothing was beneath Nia. She wasn't beneath that seat. She wasn't beneath that moment. She wasn't beneath them, because she didn't come to be silent. She came to reclaim her plane, and in exactly 9 minutes, she would. Mark Grayson leaned against the bulkhead as if he had nothing to prove, arms crossed, eyes on Nia with a cold, casual look. "Your complaint isn't a priority right now," he said flatly, not even meeting her eyes. "We have real passengers waiting." The word real stung more than his tone. Nia stepped forward. She didn't raise her voice, but something in her energy shifted, no longer standing still, no longer patient. Ethan Walsh, the youngest flight attendant on the team, stepped toward her with a forced, mechanical smile and said, "I'll take that." Then he snatched her laptop bag from her hand. "Excuse me." Nia was startled, but Ethan didn't stop. He turned on his heel, went to the crew storage behind the curtain, and tossed the bag in without a care. "No personal items allowed in first class," he muttered loud enough for everyone to hear. "We have to maintain standards." Claire, watching from the galley, smirked. "She's not a VIP. It doesn't matter what card she shows." "Her ticket is valid. She was cleared for 2A. Claire's expression turned icy. "You're not in charge, Maya." "Stay in your lane." Victor, still standing tall and smug, muttered. "She doesn't belong, and now she's making a scene." Typical. A few passengers nodded without thinking. Those microaggressions don't always shout. They whisper. And this whisper was loud enough to poison the air. Nia breathed in slowly, trying to push back the storm building in her chest. But memories flashed back like turbulence. She was 12 again, flying alone to visit her aunt in Chicago. Her mom had dressed her in a sunflower yellow dress. The dress was supposed to make her feel confident, grown up, but the flight attendant on that flight didn't smile when Nia boarded. She looked her up and down and said, "Sweetie, are you sure you're in the right place?" A question wrapped in concern but soaked in doubt. They made her sit near the back. The dress didn't shine after that. That moment etched itself into her memory. And now, this moment was waking it up. Back in the cabin, Laya's voice came softly over the phone, still in Nia's hand. "Everything's in motion," she said. "We're recording all incidents in the internal system." "Do you want me to notify the company now?" Nia replied, eyes fixed on Ethan. "Not yet." "Let them show who they really are." Mark stepped in again. "We don't have time for drama. Enough." He pointed toward the door or a comfortable exit. The implication was clear. "If you want to file a report, do it online like everyone else." He pointed toward the door. "Or take a comfortable exit." The implication was clear leave or be quiet. Maya took another step. She was the only one here not creating drama. You're humiliating her for sitting in the seat she paid for, and your reaction is proving everything she says. Ethan turned back, looking uncomfortable. "We're just following protocol." Nia's voice was small but firm. "Give me back my bag." Ethan didn't move. Claire rolled her eyes and turned away. "There's no winning with people like this," she muttered under her breath. But Emma Riley heard. "Say that louder for the camera." "Claire," she said, raising her phone again. Liam Foster had already posted on Facebook, "Black passenger harassed on Pampo Air. Laptop confiscated." Crew mocking her. "Isn't that something Some passengers saw the screen and murmured. One leaned toward another and whispered, "What if she really is important?" The tension in the cabin was thick enough to cut. Nia stepped toward Ethan, hand out. "Return my property." Ethan looked to Mark for guidance. Mark shrugged. "You took it. You deal with it." And in that moment, something changed in Ethan's eyes. Not regret, but hesitation. He hadn't expected to be left alone in this. Nia didn't flinch. "You have one chance to do the right thing." Before Ethan could speak, Maya was already at Nia's side. "If you won't return the bag, I will." Claire interrupted, voice angry. "Don't disobey direct orders." Maya didn't blink. "Your orders are biased and improper." Passengers behind them started clapping softly. Just a few, but enough to notice. Mark snapped. "What's this? A protest now." Liam shouted from his seat. "Yes, because it's wrong, and now it's on Facebook." Ethan took a small step back, shaken by the shift. His voice trembled. "They told me to do it." Nia cut in. "You knew what you were doing. You just thought I couldn't fight back." Then came the turn, small but powerful. Maya turned to Nia, her voice calm and steady. "Claire has a history with this. 2 months ago, she redirected a black passenger to economy after claiming their barcode wouldn't scan. The barcode scanned. I saw it. She told me to keep quiet." Nia looked around the cabin. The silence was no longer passive. It was alert, eyes locked. "Is that true?" someone asked from the middle row. Claire's silence confirmed it all. Nia stepped toward her. "Your days of hiding behind the intercom are over." Claire's voice choked. "You're not threatening the crew." Emma stood up. "She doesn't need to threaten anyone. She just needs to exist to scare you." Maya nodded toward the passengers. "They've seen enough." Liam added, "And we're not deleting anything." A chorus of voices chimed in to confirm. The power balance had shifted. "Ask yourself," Nia said to the entire front cabin. "What would you do if this happened to your mom, your daughter, or your friend?" No one answered, but they all thought about it. Claire turned and hurried toward the cockpit door. Mark followed, eyes darting. And then the final words of that moment rang out. Nia turned to the camera and said clearly, "This isn't just about a seat. This is a line, and they've crossed it." And just like that, the aisle became a stage, and everyone in it, every crew member, every passenger, every camera, was a witness. Now it's your turn. What would you say if you were in Nia's position? What would you say to Claire? Would you speak up or stay silent? Because bias doesn't need permission to grow. It just needs your silence. And Nia Thompson, she's not silent anymore. Security. "This is Captain Andrew," Roger said into the cabin phone, his voice full of fury. "I have a disruptive passenger in seat 2A who's refusing to comply. We need to remove her immediately." Those words echoed through first class, sending a wave of tension. Some passengers gasped. Others turned to whisper to each other. But Nia didn't even blink. She just crossed her arms, standing tall in the seat she rightfully occupied. Claire, encouraged by Roger's escalation, grabbed the intercom and announced loudly, "Attention passengers, we're experiencing a delay due to a disturbance involving charity work." Her voice mixed lies with venom. The passenger in 2A isn't who she claims. The following silence was deafening. Nia clenched her jaw as Ethan, standing by the curtain, yanked her passport from the bin where he'd tossed her bag and threw it at her feet like worthless paper. "There's your ID. Now go back to where you belong." Victor chuckled softly, not loudly, but enough. "She doesn't fit in here anyway." And that was the final match for the powder keg. Emma stood up so quickly, her seatback shook. Twist is capturing this in real time. "I've just uploaded the clip." Her voice cut through the air like a knife. "This is targeted harassment." Liam followed suit, standing beside her. "This is racism, and we can't let it slide." Nearby, passengers started whispering, then louder. Some yelled at Claire, some at Roger. Others just stood wide-eyed. Recording. Claire's smile began to fade. "Put your phones away. You're not allowed to record on the plane." But no one listened. The line between control and collapse had shattered at the far end of the cabin. Maya stood firm beside Nia, her voice calm but fierce. "I'm not part of this anymore. What you're doing is wrong, and we all know it." Roger stepped out of the cockpit, face flushed, anger trembling in his jaw. "This isn't your decision. Maya?" He barked. "You're just a new flight attendant." Maya turned to face him without flinching. "And she's our CEO." Those words didn't land immediately, like a sound wave taking a second to travel. Some passengers blinked, others froze. Roger stumbled. "What?" he asked, his voice now smaller. "What did you say?" Before anyone could answer, a tall figure entered the cabin. Officer Jamal Carter. Neat. Professional. Serious. Roger pointed immediately. "That's her." 2A, remove her. She's not cooperating." Jamal didn't move. Instead, he looked at Nia, then Maya, then Claire, then back at Nia. And he paused. Nia slowly bent down, picked up her passport from the carpet, flipped it over, holding it long enough for Jamal to read the embossed card beside it. "I'm Nia Thompson," she said. Her voice wasn't loud, but it echoed. "I own 100% of Pampo Air." She turned to Emma's camera, still in hand. "This crew won't be working here anymore." "Dear Claire." Roger's eyes narrowed. He said that's not real. "This is a stunt." Emma raised her phone higher. "A stunt." "This is live, and your voice is trending." Liam added, "Passengers are backing her." Emma raised her phone higher. "A stunt." "This is live, and your voice is trending." Liam added, "Passengers are backing her." "You've lost this battle before it even started." Jamal spoke for the first time. "Captain Andrew, I was called for safety issues, not to assist in personal vendettas." He turned to Claire. "The passenger in seat 2A has verified documents and multiple witnesses confirming staff misconduct. I won't remove her." Nia looked straight at Roger. "This isn't just bias. This is calculated humiliation, and it ends now." Meanwhile, passengers in the back of first class were still standing. Some had moved forward to see what was happening. A woman spoke up. "I've flown with Pampo Air for 10 years, and I've never seen this level of mistreatment." Another man added, "She hasn't said a word, and you're treating her like a criminal. That's all I care about." Jamal directed his attention to him. "Sir, we'll speak with you privately." Please stay seated. Victor frowned but complied. Nia's phone buzzed lightly. She glanced down. Lia sent just one message. Ready when you are. She hadn't responded yet. Instead, she turned her eyes to the passengers filming, stood up, and declared, "This is the line. Right here. It looks like this. Not, hashtag, not a lawsuit. Just the truth unfolding before you right now." Claire looked like she was trying to disappear. Ethan had stepped back behind the galley curtain. Even Mark, who spent the morning trying to escort her out, suddenly seemed to shrink in his uniform. But Nia, she stepped forward, and the whole cabin almost inhaled with her. Her voice stayed calm. "I've given you every chance. You've undermined me. You mocked my purpose. You seized my property. You questioned my humanity. And now the world is watching, but I'm not here to shame you. I'm here to fix what you've broken." Jamal nodded. "Ms. Thompson, I'm here to support your call." Then, Emma's phone rang. She looked at the screen and whispered to Liam, "Reddit's blowing up. There's a thread with over 200 comments." Nia turned back to Roger. "You said I don't belong here, that I'm not first class." She paused. "Well, neither are you." Roger opened his mouth but said nothing. Finally, Maya broke the silence with a hoarse laugh, full of disbelief and pride. "I told you she wasn't just a passenger." The cabin wasn't quiet anymore. It wasn't chaotic either. It was something else. Stronger. It was united. The people inside weren't just passengers. They had become witnesses, advocates, a chorus, and it wasn't just Nia's story anymore. It was about every woman, every traveler, everyone ever told they don't belong just because they don't look the part. And in that moment, with just 4 minutes left in those 9 minutes, Nia Thompson owned more than just an airline. She owned the truth and was about to use it. "Get her out now," Roger barked, his voice cracking under the pressure as the cabin shook with resistance. He pointed at Nia as if she were the threat, not the owner of the jet they stood on. "Ethan, escort her off the plane." Ethan hesitated, eyes glancing from Roger to the furious passengers. But then he moved quickly, sharply, without thinking. He lunged toward Nia, reached out, and shoved her shoulder hard enough that she stumbled sideways into the aisle armrest. Cheers erupted like a wildfire through the cabin. Emma lowered her phone for half a second, instinctively stepping forward. Liam shouted, "Don't touch her!" A middle-aged woman in seat 3A suddenly stood up and stepped in front of Nia, shielding her. "You won't lay a hand on her again." 2 more passengers joined her, then 3, then 7. In seconds, the aisle turned into a barrier. Passengers shoulder to shoulder, backs straight, eyes on the crew. They weren't just witnesses anymore. They were protectors. Jamal was still there, watching it all unfold. He took a cautious step forward, but stopped when he saw the barrier form. It was astonishing how a group of strangers became a wall that fast. Ethan froze. For the first time, he looked uncertain, not just about the situation, but about himself. Claire's voice rang out, shaky but sharp. "You're interfering with the crew. That's a federal offense." But no one moved. No one budged. Instead, Liam raised his phone again, Emma added, "The only federal offense here is what you just did to her. It's all on video, second by second." Nia, now behind the wall of passengers, slowly adjusted her blouse and looked straight into Ethan's eyes. That shove was the last thing you'll do in that uniform. Her voice didn't tremble. It didn't shout. It was an absolute fact, landing on the phone still gripped in her hand. Lia's voice came again. "Nia, the board knows. They've authorized full internal execution. Do you want to proceed?" Nia nodded once. "Start the escalation file." Lia answered calmly. "Activated." As Jamal stepped between Ethan and the wall of passengers, his tone shifted from calm to firm. "This is over." Power adjusted. Just then, a woman in the fourth row spoke up with a trembling voice. She wasn't an employee. "Everyone needs to back off and let the CEO speak." Roger, now sweating, stepped forward. "Are you going to stand there while she holds up the plane?" "This is abuse of power." Jamal turned to him. "No, Captain, this is a power adjustment." Just then, a woman in the fourth row spoke up with a trembling voice. "She's not the one delaying us." "You are." And another in the fifth row added, "I've seen you talking to her since she boarded. If you treat your boss like this, what chance do the rest of us have?" Claire scoffed. "This has nothing to do with race or status. She's aggressive." Emma interjected. "Do you mean assertive?" "That's the word you're looking for." "Don't twist it." Claire opened her mouth, but Maya was faster. "Enough. You've ignored complaints. You've lied to passengers. You've slandered someone trying to help kids in Kenya. That's who you are, and it's time everyone sees it." Nia's eyes went to the curtain separating first class from the galley where Ethan had disappeared. "Where's my bag?" Claire flinched. "It's been stowed." Jamal stepped to the storage and retrieved the laptop bag himself, handing it to Nia without a word. As soon as it touched her hand, she felt its symbolism. Control restored. Voice back. Identity reclaimed. Then, a twist stronger than any shout from behind the curtain. A whisper of conversation leaked out. "We can't keep hiding this." A voice said, "Ethan." "They'll find the reports." Another replied, softer and tense. "She'll bury us." Claire's eyes widened, but not fast enough. Liam had moved closer and heard enough. "Reports about what?" "What are they hiding?" The cabin fell silent again. Nia looked at Maya. "What are they talking about?" Maya's face darkened. "Complaints? Passenger reports of biased treatment. Ignored. Buried. I only found out after I was transferred." Emma lowered her phone and said gently, "Claire, you've buried bias reports." The silence was louder than any shout. The silence was louder than any shout. Nia stepped into the cleared aisle, now forming a semicircle around her. "That's why this keeps happening. Not because of a few bad apples, but because the rotten ones are protected." Claire whispered, "It's not just me. Roger knew. Ethan did too. We were told to cool down uncomfortable issues and just log them." Roger turned to her, stunned. "Now you're throwing me under the bus. The documents are locked, time-stamped, and ready to sign." Nia took a long, slow breath. "Then I'll do it." She raised her head, her voice echoing through the cabin. "Passengers, thank you for your courage, your voices, your patience. You've saved more than just a flight." You've exposed a hidden culture right in front of us. Applause came, not loud or showy, just steady, sincere, and quietly grateful. A woman clapped while wiping tears. Maya stepped to her side, and passengers applauded spontaneously. A woman clapped while wiping tears. A man whispered, "Thank God, someone finally stood up." Victor, who had been silent through the uprising, leaned forward in his seat. "This is ridiculous." "You're not a hero. You're overreacting." Nia turned to him without blinking. "No, I'm just holding up a mirror." And in that reflection, Roger, Claire, and Ethan finally saw themselves. But Nia, she saw something entirely different. She saw a new beginning, and the calculation didn't come after. It had started. Nia took a slow, deliberate step into the middle of the aisle, her laptop bag now firmly in one hand, the other still holding her phone as passengers watched wide-eyed. Some were still filming, others just stared in silence. Her blouse, slightly wrinkled from the shove, was the only thing out of place because her resolve, her posture, her voice, her presence were unshakable. "I'm Nia Thompson. I'm the CEO of Pampo Air Global Holdings. I'm the sole owner of this airline, and right now, I'm terminating the employment of 4 individuals on this flight." Gasps rippled through first class like pressure releasing from a sealed valve. Claire froze midway to the galley. Roger stood near the cockpit, face pale. Mark appeared behind him, confused for a second before fear took over. And Ethan, who had retreated to the shadows of the galley, peeked out from the corner like a caught kid stealing candy. Nia's eyes slowly, intentionally moved from face to face. Captain Roger Hull, First Officer Mark Grayson, Head Flight Attendant Claire Dutton. Flight Attendant Ethan Walsh, you're terminated. Effective immediately. Claire laughed. "You can't do that." Nia tilted her head slightly. "I just did." Jamal, standing between Nia and the stunned group, stepped forward and nodded. "Company confirmation came through 10 minutes ago. All 4. Their names are in the directive." Laya's voice came over Nia's phone, clear enough for everyone to hear. "This is Leia Carter, Executive Director of Pampo Air. Per orders from the CEO, the named personnel are fired. HR processes begin as soon as the cabin door opens. Their credentials are revoked. Flight access terminated." Ethan exhaled like he'd been punched. Roger shook as he stepped forward. "You're making a mistake. We didn't know who you were." Nia didn't hesitate. "That's the problem. You don't need to know my name to treat me with respect. But you saw a black woman in first class and made assumptions. You saw confidence and called it a challenge. You saw proof and still called it fake. That's not ignorance. That's bias." Everything fell silent again. Heavier than before. Claire stepped back slightly, face flushed. Nia turned slowly to face her. "You humiliated me over the intercom, mocked my charity, tossed my ID like trash, told others I was causing the delay when you built the barrier." "This isn't personal." Nia turned slowly to face her. "You humiliated me over the intercom, mocked my charity, tossed my ID like trash, told others I was causing the delay when you built the barrier. This is personal from the moment you opened your mouth behind Nia." Maya stepped forward, standing taller than when the flight began. "She's right. and I can't stay silent anymore." Claire looked at her as if she'd been betrayed. "You're taking her side." Maya didn't blink. "No, I'm taking the truth's side." Emma lowered her phone, clearly shaken but proud. "You've exposed them without even trying." Liam nodded. "It's already on Twist. This story is spreading faster than they can cover it." But Nia shook her head gently. "Let it stay here. This doesn't need to be a media circus. We fix it from within. Then, the twist happened sudden, personal, and condemning." Claire stepped back toward Ethan, her voice at first just a whisper. "I'm not the only one who deleted those reports." Ethan didn't respond. Claire's voice rose, desperation creeping in. "Tell her. Tell them what we were ordered to do." Roger looked up sharply. "Don't drag me into this." But Ethan, nervous and guilty, stepped forward. "There were meetings. Claire told us not to report complaints that seemed emotional." His voice choked at the end. "We were told to log them vaguely. Bury anything race-related." Mark backed it. Roger did too. Now Roger lost all color. "That's not true." Ethan turned to him, and his voice finally rose. "Yes, it is. You said it. You said complaints about microaggressions wouldn't be good for the company's image." Claire added bitterly, "We were told Pampo Air isn't the place for social activism." Nia raised her hand, silencing the protests. "And how many passengers paid the price for your silence? How many were offended, ignored, dismissed because you decided their discomfort wasn't convenient for your numbers?" No one answered. Laya's voice came again. "Nia, do you want me to initiate Pampo equity enforcement?" Nia exhaled slowly. "Yes. Begin deployment. Flag every buried complaint from the last 2 years. Cross-reference with internal bias audits." Laya replied, notifying HR and ethics on board. "Confirmed. System is live." Maya stared at Nia as if seeing her for the first time. "You're not just cleaning house. You're changing it." Nia smiled faintly. "One crew at a time." Then, she turned to Victor, still sitting there, arms crossed, his perpetual scowl intact. "And Victor Lang," she said, "you're banned for life from all Pampo Air flights." "What? For what?" Nia didn't flinch. "For trying to use your privilege as a boarding pass, for encouraging public humiliation, for thinking this cabin and the people in it exist to serve you." Victor's face twisted in disbelief. "You'll hear from my lawyer." "Me too," Nia replied. "And my legal team. But unlike yours, mine will win." Passengers erupted, not with wild cheers, but with respectful, grateful applause. Some clapped with wide eyes. Others just nodded. A man whispered, "She did what we all wish we could." Emma turned to Liam and said, "This plane just became a case study in leadership." Maya looked at Nia and asked, "Now what?" Nia glanced back at the cabin that had tried to reject her, the crew that had tried to silence her, the passengers who chose to stand. Now, she said, "We fly without them." And with that, the airplane cabin changed, not just in mood, not just in strength, but also in purpose. The plan arrived, and it had a name. The cabin door stayed open, but no one was thinking about taking off anymore. Not the passengers, not the flight crew, and certainly not Nia. She stood at the front of first class, a space that had tried to reject her presence just minutes before, now turned into the starting point of something much bigger. Effective immediately, she began, her voice calm and steady, but carrying the weight of a judgment. Pampo Air is launching the Pampo Equity Program, our commitment to accountability, transparency, and respect on every flight, every gate, and every crew. Passengers leaned forward, some still holding their phones, others putting them down, realizing this wasn't the moment to record. This was the moment to witness. The program includes mandatory training on diversity and compassion for all flight staff, regular audits of passenger complaints logs, whistleblower protection for any staff reporting internal bias, and an internal review board led by people with real power to act. She paused, letting the words sink in. Previous flights, the ones no one saw, the ones no one believed. From her seat up front, Maya looked on. Because it's not just about this flight, it's about all the previous flights, the ones no one saw, the ones no one believed. From her seat up front, Maya looked stunned, not because she didn't think Nia would act, but because she didn't expect to be part of it. "Maya Brooks," Nia said, turning to her, "you stood up for the truth when it wasn't easy. You defended a passenger you didn't know in front of colleagues who outranked you. That's the picture of true leadership." Maya's eyes widened. "Ma'am," she said. Nia smiled gently. "Now you're the official lead flight attendant on this plane and promoted to senior crew. If you accept, the applause that follows won't just be noise. It'll be warm, well-deserved, and heartfelt. That feeling comes when folks sense something good has happened, and they've seen it firsthand." Maya covered her mouth, blinking back sudden tears, then nodded. "I accept," she said. Nia turned to Jamal, the security officer who stayed neutral when called upon, but chose integrity when it mattered, and Officer Carter. "Thank you for stepping back and choosing fairness. You're not just a protector, you're a guardian." Jamal nodded in respect. It's easy to see the right side of this picture. Nia's phone rang again. Laya's voice came through, soft but steady. "We've flagged and frozen over 60 previous reports. Claire's name is tied to more than 25 incidents. And there's a new update." Nia stepped toward the galley, out of earshot of most passengers, and listened. "What's that?" Laya hesitated a bit. "There's an unapproved internal staff chat where Claire and Ethan discussed ways to limit escalations, a code for deleting or redirecting bias complaints to inactive folders. But there's more to it. They were trained." Nia frowned. "Trained by whom?" Laya's answer came slowly and carefully. "The former base manager at LAX. They called him by his initials, BWW. He organized secret quarterly training." Nia held her breath but didn't show it. "Is he still working here?" "No," Laya said. "He retired last year, but the policies he instilled are still in effect in some crew leadership departments." Nia nodded. "So we're not just dealing with bad apples. We're uprooting the buried roots." She turned back into the aisle and spoke loudly enough for everyone to hear. Some of what happened here today wasn't just bias. It was deliberate negligence. There was a system set up to shield staff from accountability, and that system ends today. Ethan was now sitting at the back of the cabin near the bulkhead, his face pale. Nia turned to him. "Do you want to Some passengers murmured in disbelief. Ethan was now sitting at the back of the cabin near the bulkhead, his face pale. Nia turned to him. "Do you want to say anything before I report you to the ethics board?" Ethan slowly stood up. The arrogance he'd shown earlier was completely gone. "I knew what we were doing was wrong," he admitted, his voice breaking. "But Claire said the company would never side with passengers over crew. She said I was too high up to care. I didn't believe her. Until today." Nia tilted her head. "You were right not to believe her. But you still did nothing." Ethan nodded his head sadly. "I know," he said, his voice dropping low. The passengers started whispering again, not out of fear, but because they were realizing that this wasn't just about one flight or one woman. The story is about an airline, an industry, and a culture that quietly allowed dignity to become optional. Not anymore. Nia turned back to the crowd. "For anyone harmed on this flight, whether in words, feelings, or mindset, I'll refund your full fare and upgrade you for free on your next Pampo Air flight." It doesn't erase what happened, but it acknowledges it. A woman near the back raised her hand. "And what happens next?" Nia answered without hesitation. "Next, we review every active crew member's record. We retrain from top to bottom. We talk with people, not around them, and we make sure a black woman in first class is never mistaken for a threat again." The cabin erupted again, not in chaos, but in affirmation. Applause rang out, steady and strong. Some passengers stood up to join in. Others stayed seated, nodding their heads, eyes closed. Nia's voice rang out one last time. "The Pampo Equity Program has just launched. Internal emails are being sent to all regional managers." Nia smiled gently. "So, it's all underway." She turned back to Maya. "I'll step off before takeoff." "You have the cabin now." Maya nodded, full of pride and excitement. "I'll take good care of it." Nia reached out and placed her hand on her shoulder. "I know you will." As Nia headed toward the jet bridge, a young girl near row 5 tugged on her mother's sleeve and whispered something. The mother leaned forward and gently called out, "Ms. Thompson?" Nia stopped and turned around. "Yes." The little girl peeked out from behind her mother's arm. "Will you make sure all the planes are safe now?" Nia smiled gently, her voice soft but firm. "Yes, sweetheart. That's the plan." And then she stepped off the plane, not in silence, not in shame, but in triumph behind her. The cabin wasn't just lighter. It had changed. 6 months later, Gate D12 at Miami International Airport no longer brought that quiet fear to Nia Thompson. The aroma of freshly brewed espresso from the renovated lounge filled the terminal. The signs had changed. The uniforms had changed. But most importantly, the culture had changed too. Pampo Air is now operating fully under the Pampo Equity Program. Bias reporting kiosks at every hub, quarterly empathy drills, anonymous staff feedback channels, and real-time passenger experience audits. The story of that flight, which was once just a cabin full of turmoil, has quietly spread through every level of the airline, not for publicity, not for praise, but because Nia ensured the shame stayed internal while the solutions became systemic. Claire, Roger, Mark, and Ethan were all fired for cause and faced FAA oversight for unethical behavior. Their names were removed from internal training, but not forgotten, now serving as a silent warning throughout the flight leadership. What happened that day wasn't just an embarrassment. It was a mirror that the entire industry has no choice but to stare into. Nia turned down interviews, turned down TV spots, and turned down book deals. Her only public statement was a single sentence sent to Pampo Air's employees and shareholders. "We won't build the future on silence." Inside the new company office in Atlanta, a plaque hangs outside the Pampo Equity Training Center. On it reads, "Courage isn't about shouting, it's about standing firm." And below, in smaller font, "Inspired by Maya Brooks, the lead flight attendant." From then on, Maya became not just a leader, but a symbol for Pampo Air. Her promotion held steady. Her reputation grew even more. She went from being overlooked in briefings to helping write the new hiring procedures. In interviews with interns, she spoke the plain truth. No sugarcoating, no shortcuts, just the facts. About the day Claire tried to dismiss a CEO, about the moment silence ended and change began. And every time she told it, someone in the room would say, "That can't happen again," and Maya would always reply, "It won't, unless you speak up." Back at Gate D12, the flight Nia just left was preparing to board. This time, headed to Nairobi. No drama, no delays, no doubts. As passengers settled in, a woman approached the gate agent and quietly asked for help with her elderly mother, who was anxious about flying. The agent responded not just politely, but with genuine care and patience. A man who didn't quite fit the usual profile was upgraded without question after his name showed up on the platinum list, and he was seated in 2A. Yes, that very 2A seat. A young black girl in a hoodie, headphones around her neck, tapped nervously on the armrest until a flight attendant walked by and smiled. "Are you okay, dear?" the attendant asked. "Yeah," the girl replied. "Is this your first time flying up here?" The attendant grinned. "It's still home for me." Meanwhile, in Nia's office in downtown Atlanta, she was reviewing a stack of job applications from the anonymous feedback portal when her assistant walked in. "There's a letter you should see. It's handwritten, with no return address." Nia raised an eyebrow, took the envelope, and carefully opened it. The handwriting was shaky. The ink was a bit smudged, but the words were clear. Nia raised an eyebrow, took the envelope, and carefully opened it. The handwriting was shaky. The ink was a bit smudged, but the words were clear. "You don't know me, but I was a regional flight crew manager years ago. I left when I realized I was protecting people like Roger. I told myself I was doing my duty, but I wasn't. I was hiding. What you did on that flight changed everything for me and for others. We used to share a saying among us: keep the cabin clean, bury the loose ends in the trash. We thought it was clever. Now it makes me sick. Thank you for not quietly walking off that plane. Thank you for staying." Nia gently folded the letter back. There was no bitterness in her expression. "Just wait and see. A certain kind of pain settles that only truth can bring on Pampo Air's internal servers. The Pampo Equity dashboard shows unresolved bias reports have dropped by over 70%. Resolved cases have increased. Satisfaction among Black and brown passengers is at an all-time high for the company. But Nia doesn't measure success by numbers. She measures it by what's absent. No humiliation, no fear, no voice silenced while others look away. That's her measure. That's her mission. The final twist came in a private meeting 3 weeks after the Nairobi flight resumed. A retired Pampo Air executive, who had stayed silent in board meetings, now facing potential lawsuits, confessed in writing that Roger had mentioned Nia's name before the flight. He knew who she was. He just didn't think she'd fight back. He believed she'd sit down and take it. And if she didn't, he thought no one would believe her. This confession, buried in legal archives, was never publicized, but it sparked something else. Resolution, because it proved the battle Nia fought that day wasn't spontaneous. It was systemic, and she beat it from the inside. Before stepping out that day, Nia looked at the old photo frame on her desk. Inside was a picture of her as a 12-year-old girl in a bright yellow dress on her first flight, where she was asked, "Are you sure you're in the right seat?" She never forgot that, and now, because of everything she's done, thousands of others won't have to go through it. So, to the passengers who stood up, to the flight crew who spoke out, to the young women who will board planes in any outfit they choose, and to the woman who was once challenged for her seat but never deserved it. The sky is no longer the limit.